Hello friends, my name is Jess and welcome back to my channel, Books Past Bedtime. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about my anticipated new releases for the rest of 2024. So these are all books that are coming out over the next couple of months, including September, October, November, and December to take us through the end of 2024. I think I have 19 or 20 books to share with you. I have separated them into a few genre categories. So the first category I'm going to talk about are SFF books. The second category are contemporary and historical romances. And the third category are thrillers and horror. And of course, as always, every single book on this list is queer in some way. Most of them have large romance plots because that is what I'm interested in and what I like to read. Of course, this is not a comprehensive list. These are just the books that I am personally interested in coming out in the next few months, so that if you have a similar reading taste to me, you can add these to your TBR as well if they spark your fancy. And of course, if you're not interested in one genre or the other, I will leave timestamps in the description on the video so that you can skip around and just check out the books that you think you will be most interested in. I think that's all I have to say. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. And like I said, the first category of books we're going to be talking about are SFF books. So the first book I have here to talk about is Kings of Hollywood by Faye Quinn. Faye Quinn is an author who I have read from before. They have a lot of stuff on KU and I have enjoyed their stuff in the past. I particularly love their Christmas romances, but they write a lot of paranormal fantasy romances and this is one of them. This book is a part of the Tales from the Tarot series, which is a multi-author series that's coming out on KU. I don't know if any of the books are released yet. I think this might be the first one that's coming out in the series. I'm not super interested in any of the others in the series as of now, but maybe if I hear more about them, I will be. I am interested in this one though, because like I said, I do like Faye Quinn. In this book, we're following our main character, Marshall, and Marshall has a secret. He's a serial killer. Although no one knows, he has lived a quiet, cultivated life in this suburban cul-de-sac. He also spends a lot of his time hating / lusting after his neighbor, Felix. Marshall thinks he and Felix don't have anything in common, but one night he sees Felix dragging a corpse from his house across the lawn, and Marshall's like, okay, maybe we do have more in common than I thought we did, and maybe Felix needs his help. So the description of this pitches it as a serial killer vampire romance. Obviously, it's all in good fun. It is not that serious. Like I said, I do like Faye Quinn, and I think that they write good romances with a lot of different tropes that I personally enjoy, so I am very excited for this one. When this video goes up, I think that this book will already be out as it comes out on September 2nd. Next, of course, we have to talk about Somewhere Beyond the Sea by TJ Klune. This is TJ Klune's newest release. It's coming out on September 10th, and it is actually a sequel to The House in the Cerulean Sea. Typically, I'm not a huge fan of sequels of books that were intended originally to be standalones, but I do honestly trust TJ Klune with my life, so I'm gonna pick this one up. Like I mentioned before, this is a sequel to The House in the Cerulean Sea, and this one follows Arthur. The House in the Cerulean Sea followed Linus. Arthur and Linus fall in love in The House in the Cerulean Sea, and in this book, I think we learn that Arthur has a bit of a dark backstory, is actually summoned to make a statement about his dark past, and he kind of finds himself at the helm of a fight for the future of his family and all magical people, as Arthur is the owner, the runner, the father of this home for magical orphaned children, and he becomes the face of this movement, it sounds like. So the first book in this series I loved. It's a cozy fantasy with a hint of romance, and that's what this book sounds like as well, maybe taking more of a serious turn. So I definitely am planning to pick this one up when it comes out, and I'm very excited for a new TJ Klune. Another book I'm super excited about is Yield Under Great Persuasion by Alexandra Rowland. Alexandra Rowland has written quite a few romantasy books. I haven't picked any of them up yet, but they all sound so good to me, and I am planning to read their first one, A Taste of Golden Iron, this month, so I'm very excited. And this one also sounds amazing. This one is more, I think, leans more cozy romantasy, so that intrigues me as well. In it, we're following our main character, Tam Beckett, who has hated Lord Lyford since they were boys, and the fact that he has also been sleeping with Lord Lyford for the past 10 years doesn't change this fact. And then the very last straw, Tam discovers that Lord Lyford is favored by this god that Tam feels very betrayed by and abandoned by, and so he packs up and leaves the village and leaves Lord Lyford, and he goes on this journey journey that he does not expect. It turns out to be a journey of self-discovery, of forgiveness, and learning along the way that maybe there has been one person all along who has loved him just for who he is. I actually love this graphic that Alexander posted on their Instagram of, it's like one-sided enemies to lovers, one-sided yearning. So these boys are just stupid and don't talk to one another, which sometimes miscommunication is not my favorite. As long as they're both like equally obsessed with one another, I can get over it. I can get with it. So I do think that I would really enjoy this one, and I'm very excited. This one comes out on September 17th. Maybe the one I'm most excited for on this list, and probably the only one I think that I've actually pre-ordered, is Sword Crossed by Freya Marks. I love Freya Marks. Her previous series, the Last Binding trilogy, I loved so much. It's one of my favorite fantasy romance series, so I'm very excited for her newest release. And this is another romantasy. It follows Maddie and Luca. Maddie is the dutiful heir to this family, and his family's business is kind of crumbling, so he's trying to do everything he can to repair the family name, repair the fortune, like get everyone back on good footing. And so he is going along with this marriage arrangement. This marriage is taking place back in the day where the man has to like sword fight anyone that might come to challenge the marriage. And Maddie is not a good sword fighter, so he needs to hire a very skilled sword fighter to maintain the family name, not embarrass his family, etc. But he can't really afford to hire an experienced swordsman. Who he can afford to hire is Luca, who just so happens to be a part-time con artist and a full-time menace. However, neither Maddie's business troubles nor Luca are exactly as they seem, and the two of them become entangled in intrigue and sabotage, and Luca's secrets threaten to drive a blade through their growing alliance. So this is an romantasy. Sounds really good. Kind of like opposites attract kind of situation. Comes out on October 8th, and I'm so excited to get it in the mail. This is probably one of the most exciting books on this list for me. So another book coming out on October 8th is A Vile Season by David Ferraro. I believe that this is kind of like an installment in the multi-author like classics retelling series. I don't know if this is like a Dracula retelling or what exactly this one is, but the cover looks so similar to like Self-Made Boys and Most Ardently, so I would assume that it's kind of a part of this like series. I don't actually know. I'm just guessing. Anyway, this book follows Count Lucian, who has been run out of his castle by vampire hunters, and while he's in hiding, he encounters the god of vampires. And this god is very unhappy with how humans have sort of bested vampires over the years, so he gives Lucian a task. He's like, Lucian, you need to infiltrate the court of the Duke and present yourself as a suitor and uncover the clandestine vampire hunters in their midst. And so, in order for Lucian to do this, the god strips Lucian of his immortality, turns him human, except Lucian isn't really prepared for being a part of humanity and the emotions that come along with it. I would assume he probably falls in love with the Duke or someone in the court as he is there, which is a bad thing because if he fails this mission, the god of vampires is going to torture him for the rest of his life. So stakes are high here. But this one sounds good. I'm not quite sure if this is YA because I think the rest in the series are YA, but it still sounds really good, and I have liked other books in that series, so I definitely want to pick this one up. I think it sounds really good. Another book I think sounds really good is Reclaimed by Seth Haddon. This book comes out on October 9th. I think it's a little bit of a different release because I think that this is an indie release and not part of one of the big publishing houses. Anyway, this is another romantasy book. It follows our main character, Saba. Saba is accused of something horrible that I'm assuming he probably didn't do, but I'm not sure. Basically, they're accusing him of constructing this arcane device that has malfunctioned and basically flattened an entire area of the city, killing a lot of people, along with a foreign dignitary that was very important. And so the government of this world is accusing Saba of doing this because he's an inventor, a designer. So then Ambassador Luane Zek is dispatched to take custody of Saba, but after seeing Saba's pathetic state, Zek is like, are you really guilty or are you just a scapegoat? And so with the country's fate in the balance, the two kind of team up to discover what actually happened and who is actually behind it and how they are going to stop them and save Saba from being accused of this horrible crime. Of course, they, I'm sure, fall in love along the way. This one comes out on October 9th. Like I said, very excited for it. I think it sounds really good. Next on my list is Sorcery and Small Magics. In this book, we're following our main character, Leo Vander, and Leo Vander is a master of small magics. He doesn't try anything bigger because usually it all blows up in his face. So he's just content to do his little warming of teas and tightening of knots, things like small magics, you you get it. And so he's vowed to never use powerful magic to write powerful magic, but he becomes the victim of this powerful curse that binds him to his longtime nemesis, Sebastian Grimm. Grimm and Leo are very much opposites, but in order to dissolve the curse, they have to work together, and part of this is uncovering how deep the well of Leo's magic truly runs, and as they must like harness it in order to break the curse. This book comes out on October 15th and is going to be the first installment in a new series called the Wilder Songs trilogy. I'm not sure if the trilogy is going to follow the same couple throughout or if there's going to be different couples in each book. I typically prefer a series in which plot advances but each book follows a new couple because I do like a little happily ever after at the end of every book that I read, but I'm not sure. We will see, but this is pitched as a new queer romantasy series, which is always going to be on my radar, so I'm excited for this one. The next book I want to talk about, I don't really have a description for, and that is Impulsive Connection by Marie Renard. This is the second book in the Elemental Bonds series, trilogy, question mark. The first book basically followed a werewolf and a mage as they fall in love, as well as the mystery of this like deadly curse that is attacking the land of this werewolf pack. This is a paranormal romance series set in the present. I really enjoyed the first book. I gave it 4.5 stars. The only reason it didn't get 5 stars is it was very much a slow burn, only one spicy scene at the very end of the book, which is not my preferred like reading experience for a KU series, as this series is on KU. But I still really liked it. It was written really well. Marie also wrote another book in another like more contemporary paranormal romance series that I gave 5 stars and I loved so much. I can't wait for the next book in that series, but this one comes first. This one is coming out on October 15th, and it does say on Goodreads that this date is a placeholder. It could be moved up, so this book might come out sooner than October 15th, but that's the date we have for now. So I am very excited for this one as well. Next, I want to talk about The Crack at the Heart of Everything by Fiona Fenn. This is another fantasy, a romance book, and in it we're following Orpheus. Orpheus is kind of a villain. He can't really believe it when he finds himself banished after the price of his magic endangers the palace, and so he's banished from his home and everything he knows, and so he is isolated and betrayed, and he isn't thrilled when his irritating and handsome rival keeps appearing and stepping between him and certain doom. He is also ill at ease in the barren wasteland that his magic has created, and his feelings for his charismatic rival continue to grow more intense. And so now the villain is kind of struggling with feelings of heroism and maybe turning a new leaf. So I think that this book sounds pretty different than anything I've read. It almost kind of reminds me of like the opposite of like a hero's journey, which sounds really cool, and I'm very like interested in this one. It sounds kind of like Stephen King-esque, but with like a queer campy twist. So I definitely am very interested in this one. It comes out on November 12th, and I will definitely be keeping it on my radar. Next on my list is a book that I feel like I've talked about in a previous video in this series, and that is Not for the Faint of Heart by Lex Croucher. This book, though, I have talked about it before because I think it was released in the UK on August 15th, but it doesn't actually release in America until November 26th, so I'm going to talk about it again in this video. This is basically a gender-swapped Robin Hood retelling. It follows our main character, Mariel, who is the grumpy captain of the Merry Men, and she's also desperate to live up to the legacy of her grandfather, Robin Hood. Mariel's band of bandits kidnap Clem, who is a too perky backwoods healer, and they kidnap her in order to kind of send a message to the sheriff of Nottingham for, I guess, arresting criminals. I don't know. Robin Hood's like steal from the rich, give to the poor kind of notion. I don't know. They don't like the cops, basically. And everything is going to plan until Jack, who's Mariel's father, is captured in a deadly ambush. And so Mariel is very dead set on proving herself, and she also wants to rescue her father. So Mariel sets out to get him back with Clem, her annoyingly cheerful kidnappee in tow. So this book sounds ridiculous and campy, and I love Lex Croucher, and I've loved every book that I've read by them. This book kind of sounds in the vein of Gwen and Art Are Not in Love, which was a like YA retelling of King Arthur and the Round Table, I think is the story. That was really fun. I read that earlier this year. I really enjoyed it. So I think that this book will probably be like kind of similar, kind of companion-esque to that book. So very excited for this one and can't wait to read it. All right, moving on to our next category, which mostly includes contemporary romance, but I think I have one historical romance that I'm anticipating that I threw into here because I didn't know where else to put it. And the first book we're going to talk about is Fall for Him by Andy Burke. This is the same author of Fly With Me, which was a sapphic romance that came out last year, I believe. I haven't read it yet, but it is on my TBR and I really want to get to it, hopefully soon. But this is the newest release from that author. And this is kind of an enemies to lovers, forced proximity, opposites attract, neighbors romance. In it, we're following Derek and Dylan. Derek has loathed Dylan from the moment he moved in, because when he moved in, he causes a flood. And this flood causes the floor of Derek's bedroom to collapse into Dylan's bedroom. Their names being so similar is very confusing me while I'm trying to give you this this summary. But anyway, neither boy really wants the HOA, the landlord, to find out about this situation, because Dylan, for obvious reasons, he's the one that caused the damage. Derek, because he has this dog sitting business he runs out of his home that he doesn't want the landlord to find out about because he's not supposed to be doing this. I don't know. Convoluted. Anyway, Derek is like, oh, I'll fix it. Don't worry. And so Derek stays on Dylan's couch as he's fixing it because he can't sleep in his own bedroom. And the two kind of act like they don't have crushes on one another. And so I think it's kind of similar to the book that I was talking about earlier by Alexander Rowland, where one hates one and one is pining after the other, but they both secretly really like each other. So this book comes out on September 3rd, and it just sounds like a fun, ridiculous, contemporary rom-com. Next on my list is The Lovers by Rebecca Fabian. This book comes out on September 24th and is a sapphic romance. It's so funny because one of the characters in this book is named Kit, and I feel like the name Kit is everywhere. I have read and seen so many books in the last year of a character named Kit. I read this one book on KU called The Adventures of Kit something. Kit is the name of one of the characters in The Pairing by Casey McQuiston. There's a character in this book named Kit. I literally, when I was making this video, read 3 or 4 descriptions of books with characters named Kit. And it's so funny because I love the name Kit. But I guess everyone else loves the name Kit right now too, because every character in every book is named Kit. It's crazy. Anyway, that aside, in this book, we're following Kit. And Kit is a tarot card reader. Kit is offered a gig at an influencer's wedding. She accepts, except she doesn't expect to find out that the wedding planner is a longtime crush of hers. And Julia, the said wedding planner, is having lots of problems because one of her exes is a bridesmaid in this wedding, and then it turns out Kit actually broke her heart in the past. I'm not sure if Kit's aware of this. It doesn't seem like it from the description, but Kit and Julia kind of have their spark reignited. As they are both coming together for wedding events, they might have a second chance at being lovers. And this book sounds so cute. I love the cover of this book based off of the Lovers tarot card. It's just so beautiful, and I'm very excited for this one. It comes out on September 24th. Another book I'm so excited about is a new Ashley Herring Blake. This is going to be a Christmas rom-com, and it is called Make the Season Bright. This is a second chance romance, and we're following Charlotte and Brighton. The two used to be engaged until Brighton left Charlotte at the altar about 5 years ago. They haven't really seen or spoken to each other since. Charlotte is invited to spend Christmas with one of the girls' families who's in her string quartet that she plays in. She's a professional musician, and so she agrees to go spend Christmas with her family in Colorado because she doesn't really have anyone else to spend it with. It turns out that her friend's sister has also brought home a friend who just happens to be Brighton. And so the two are pretending to be strangers at this Christmas party and kind of trying to avoid one another. After all of their trauma and disagreements are in the past, right? There's nothing that can melt the ice in their hearts. Not even Christmas cheer. It's I'm sure that they will fall in love again. I'm so excited to have another Ashley Herring Blake to look forward to. This book comes out on October 1st, which is great because I don't give a shit about Halloween, so I will be jumping right into Christmas as soon as possible. Probably the most out there book on my list is called Roland Rogers Isn't Dead Yet by Samantha Allen. I believe this is the author of the book Patricia Just Wants to Cuddle or something, with the woman in the hand of an ape on the cover. I don't know what that book is about. I've never read it. I felt like I should bring that up. It feels notable information to share. Anyway, this book is following Adam, who is a memoirist. He's almost famous, and he's hired to ghostwrite the memoir of this famed Hollywood hunk named Roland. But problem is, Roland is dead. He's not dead in the metaphysical realm though. If he focuses, he can control the kitchen speaker and communicate with Adam, but he is most certainly dead in the physical sense. And so he needs Adam to pen his story before his body is discovered, and as time starts to run out, they begin to fall in love, which It's another problem, considering Roland Rogers is dead. So this book comes out on December 3rd, and it sounds really intriguing and interesting. Definitely unlike other things that I have read before, but people who've gotten advanced copies of this say that it's really good. And I don't know, I'm very intrigued by the description. I do like the idea of falling in love with a ghost. I don't know, it sounds fun. I'm here for it. Another very exciting book on my list is a new Alexis Hall release. I can't be too excited for this though, because this is the third book in a series of which I've only read the first, so I need to read the second before this one comes out. But anyway, this is called Something Extraordinary. It is book number 3 in the Something Fabulous series, which is a historical romance series, Regency era. They're just very much like campy romps, very fun, very ridiculous. So I'm excited for this third book. Need to read the second one. This book is following Sir Horley and Arabella, and I think we've met both of these characters in the first book. I've met both of these characters in the first book. Sir Horley and Arabella are very good friends. I think we start out this book with Sir Horley, who isn't particularly interested in getting married, especially when his match is a perfectly respectable young woman, and Sir Horley is extravagantly gay. But he's kind of resigned himself to the fact of this marriage and is just going to do it anyway. On the other hand, Arabella has no interest in romance, but even she can see that Sir Horley is going to be so miserable if he goes through with these nuptials, and so, as a good friend would, she kidnaps him on the night of his wedding and takes him away and whisks him away on this like marvelous adventure where they kind of discover that their friendship is home and so important, and I think they have like little side romances as well. But from the description and from people that have gotten advanced reader copies of this book, it does seem like the friendship of Sir Horley and Arabella is really at the forefront of this story, which I think is so fun, and a lot of readers commented that they're like, I am so excited to see a book where friendship is given the full like rom-com romance treatment, and it's really the most important relationship in the book is the friendship between our two main characters, and I just love that. That sounds so lovely and so wonderful. Obviously both of these characters are also queer in this story, and just seeing queer friendship in found family sounds like such a good time, especially written by Alexis Hall, so I'm very excited for this one. It comes out on December 17th. Alright, those are all of my contemporary and historical romances, so now let's talk about some thrillers and horror books that I'm excited about. I feel like the more that time goes on, the more I see these like queer thriller horror books, and I'm so excited to get more representation in the genre. I feel like thrillers and horror books are like historically been the least diverse, and I feel like that's definitely changing, and I'm very excited about that. So let's talk about some books that I'm looking forward to in this genre. First of which is Compound Fracture by Andrew Joseph White. I read I think his debut book earlier this year. Really enjoyed it. It's pretty intense and kind of difficult to read in our current political climate, as it's very, very much a reflection of our reality. But it was so good, and I just am so drawn to this author because we went to the same college and we're fellow alum of George Mason University, which I just think is really cool. That aside, this book, we're following Miles. On the night that he comes out as trans to his parents, he sneaks off to a party and he is carrying evidence that may finally turn the tide of this blood feud that has been plaguing his hometown. And he has with him photos that prove the county's Sheriff Davies was responsible for the accident that injured his dad, killed others, and crushed their grassroots efforts to unseat him. But now, Miles becomes the feud's latest victim as the son of Sheriff Davies and his friends sniff out the evidence and beat Miles nearly to death. And as Miles is in the hospital recovering, he learns of other folks who also want out from under the sheriff's thumb. He kind of becomes the catalyst for freeing all the families of this town from the cycle of cruelty that comes from the police. But Miles isn't really sure if he's ready to be at the helm of this movement, if he's really the right person for the job, prepared for it. So that's when the kind of conflict of the book starts, is what I gathered from the description. This book comes out on September 3rd, so when this video comes out, it should already be out, and I'm very excited to pick it up. I can't wait to read it. Another book in this category that sounds interesting to me is Don't Let the Forest In by C.C. Drews. This kind of sounds like a magical realism sort of horror story, and it really quite reminds me of The Wicker King by Kay Ankrum, which I really loved. The description of this book is really giving those vibes. It follows Andrew and Thomas. Andrew is a writer, Thomas is an artist, and Andrew like finds refuge in these twisted fairy tales that he writes for the only person who can ground him in reality, who is Thomas. Thomas spends a lot of his time drawing characters and monsters characters from Andrew's stories. But when they come back to school after the summer, there's something strange going on with Thomas. Thomas's parents have mysteriously vanished, and he arrives at school with blood on his sleeve. But Thomas won't say anything about it. Andrew, though, is desperate to figure out what's wrong with his friend to help him if he can, and so one night he follows Thomas as he sneaks into the woods in the middle of the night. These woods are forbidden from students. In them, Andrew finds Thomas fighting these monsters. These monsters have come to life from Thomas's drawings, which is terrifying. And so to make sure no one else dies, Thomas and Andrew try to battle these monsters at night and kill them, rid the world of them. But as things progress, as things go on, Andrew starts to wonder if maybe the only way to get rid of these monsters is to kill their creator. So I think this is kind of a story of like obsession and friendship, queerness, and also scary shit. Scary monsters in the woods. I am excited to read this one. It's very intriguing to me. It comes out on October 29th, which is perfect for the like spooky fall season. Next on my list is I Might Be in Trouble by David Aylman. I think that this book sounds so interesting, especially because the main character of this story has a very similar name to the author. So I do think that this is intentional on the author's part to kind of create this story that's very meta because this story is about an author who decides to have a one-night stand. He wakes up hungover with his one-night stand dead in the bed next to him, and so he calls the only person he can trust, which is his literary agent, and him and Stacy are trying to untangle the events of the previous night, figure out what happened, cover up their tracks, and also spin this whole story into David's next career-defining novel, but they also have to hide the body first. So this book sounds crazy, and I love how, like I said, how meta it seems, how it almost seems like this is the novel that they wrote, and that Daniel, the author of this book, is David, the character of this book, and it's all like one and the same. I think that this sounds so interesting and so fun, and it comes out on December 3rd. The final book I have to talk about is What the Woods Took by Courtney Gold. This is a YA thriller horror book. It's kind of a metaphor, I believe, for like wilderness camp, behavioral camps, conversion therapy camps, while they are horrific in and of themselves, creating this like supernatural horror story from that framework. So I think it sounds really cool. It basically follows this main character, Devin, who wakes up in the middle of the night to find two men in her bedroom. She calls out to her foster parents for help, but turns out they're in on it. This is a planned abduction, and Devin is taken to this wilderness camp for troubled teens. She learns that she has to survive this 50-day hike through the wilderness with the hopes that all of the participants will come out on the other side as changed humans, better humans. It's bullshit, obviously. But things take a turn for the worse when inhuman faces begin appearing through the trees, and then one day the campers wake up to find their two counselors missing. And so therapy becomes the least of their problems. If the monsters have their way, no one will leave the woods alive. Sounds spooky, scary skeletons. I'm excited. It sounds really good. I've heard good things about Courtney Gold in the past. I don't think I've read anything from her though. But this book comes out on December 10th, and I will definitely be keeping it on my radar. All right, and those are all of the books that I have found that are releasing in the next couple of months that I am excited to pick up. Let me know in the comments down below which one sounds most exciting to you, or if I didn't include a book on my list that you're super excited to read, let me know about it. I would love to know. Maybe I'll add it to my TBR, and this can be a sort of symbiotic relationship, you know? I also linked all the books in the description if you're interested in any of them. These are affiliate links. I'll earn a tiny commission if you purchase through them. No pressure, they're just there if you would like them. You can also follow me on social media. I have all those links in the description below as well. And also don't forget to do all of the fun YouTube stuff that you know how to do. Subscribe, like the video, leave a comment. It all helps me out. Thank you for being here, for watching this video. I really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.